Raiders! It's Raiders Fan Radio, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans who are the only fans that matter. That's right, Murf and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Touchdown! Kenny Stabler goes all the way.
We miss you, we love you, and we'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. Just win, baby. Well, I love this team. I think this team can win. I think this team can win.
Welcome in to another fantastic episode of Raiders Fan Radio. At least we hope it'll be a fantastic episode. I am your host, Sonny Dago, up here in the beautiful high 80s, low 90s Pacific Northwest. With me in studio, as always, is my, some would call, lovely co-host, Murf. Murf, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Sonny. You know, I guess there's probably one person in the world that would call me lovely. And, yeah, thanks, honey. Love you, too. Man, it's a beautiful day today, Sonny. And you know what's so great about today? You know what's so great about this episode of Raiders Fan Radio? Do you know what? Huh? Do you?
That we're talking about the Raiders.
Well, of course, we're talking about the Raiders, and this is the last episode of Raiders Fan Radio recorded in the offseason. That's right, because they report next week, and Sonny, we are official, baby. 2017 football, our march to the Super Bowl.
We're out of the doldrums.
Oh,
we're out of the doldrums.
Oh, my gosh.
You mean we can finally have topics to talk about that we don't have to, like, just surf all over Murph's internet black hole to find? Is that what you're saying?
We don't have to dig into the deep, darkest recesses of the internet to find Oakland Raiders stories. That's correct.
We don't have to have the ranking of the fattest players to throw a touchdown pass. Is that what you're saying? We'll actually have topics to cover.
Hey, I actually kind of like this stuff, though. You know, I like that stuff. I like that stuff. It's fun to dig in. And you know what? It gives us a great opportunity to have interviews like we did with the guys from the Hampton Roads and Northern Virginia Booster Club, right?
Yes, so let's get into it. So today we got 7 topics. We have the Sea of Fans mailbag, and we also have an interview for you listening in. Troy Limerick from the Northern Virginia Raiders Booster Club, as well as Kenny Mann from the Hampton Roads Raiders Booster Club, joined us for an interview, which we'll play here for you in a bit. Topic number 1 is going to be Adam Rank's, Murph's new best friend. Adam Rank, his story on NFL.com titled Why You Should Root for the Raiders. And he included Star Wars in the article, and therefore Adam is now my new best friend as well. Murph. Topic number 2, Obi was on Good Morning Football. Murph has the audio of that, and we break that down a bit. Number 3, Ross Tucker, the fill-in for Dan Patrick. Murph's a fan of Ross. I'm not so much. I miss Dan when he's gone. He has a website called sportsonearth.com. He has an article titled, Is It Ever Okay to Switch Your Fandom? Which is interesting because we talked to the former Chargers fan who's now a Raiders fan about this a couple weeks ago. Topic number 4, we're going to briefly touch on this because we don't believe this guy is even a Raider, but he commented on the Raiders, so we'll touch on it. Jerry Rice came out, period. I'm just kidding.
We'd like to congratulate Jerry on his
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Jerry Rice came out and said he loves the Raiders and he's rooting for the Raiders this year. Where were you several years ago, you punk? Anyway, topic number 5, Khalil Mack, endorsed by Mack Trucks. And topic number 6, Greg Auman recently wrote an article called Baddest of the Bad, talking about the most badass team right now in the league and as well as the badass players, and figure out where your Raiders stack up on that as well as which Raider players stack up on that. Topic number 7, I have no idea what it is. It's simply titled Murf's Internet Black Hole. So I am equally as scared as you are listening to the show right now of where that's. Last week it took us down the fattest players to ever throw and receive touchdown passes. So who knows where it'll go this week. And Murf, is it Uncle Mosh around to tell everybody where they can find out more information about our show?
Hey, boys and girls, this is Uncle Mosh. That's right. Somebody actually claims Sonny and Murf. These two. Check them out on their website, RaidersFanRadio.com. You can friend them on Facebook at RaidersFanRadio, or you can like their fan page at Raiders Fan Radio Podcast. Hey, I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use a Twitter, but they do. You can tweet them at Raiders Fan Radio. Call them. Leave a voicemail if you want. Go old school. 909-345-3346. That's 909-345-3346. Hey, do this. Please subscribe and rate Raiders Fan Radio on iTunes. You can listen to the show on all podcast services like Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Okay, am I done? Did I say all the stuff I was supposed to say? All right, I'm out of here.
All right, thank you, Uncle Mosh, for your continued support of the show and all you do for it. I love you, Uncle Mosh. You're my favorite uncle. Okay.
Whoa, wait a minute. You get all kissy face now? What did he do, punch you while you guys were together last week?
Last week, I kind of got a little rude, so I wanted to make sure I'm still on good terms. We didn't see each other in D.C. last week. We were both there on business trips, coincidentally. So I got a little scared. I didn't leave the hotel room very much because I was making fun of him. But I'm going to see him in September, so I got to make sure you
got to make with the nice.
Now.
That's right. You got to make with the nice now.
I got to plant seeds now. All right. Anyway, all right, Murf. So interview with Troy Limerick from Northern Virginia Raiders Booster Club, as well as Kenny Mann from the Hampton Roads Raiders Booster Club. And we'll play that for you right meow. All right, Raider Nation, we are live now with the president of the Northern Virginia Raiders Booster Club, Troy Limerick, and also the president of the Hampton Roads Raider Club, Kenny Mann. Welcome in, gentlemen. How you doing today?
Good. Everything is good.
So we got two guests. We're gonna try to stack these questions here. So Troy, right off the bat, brother, I understand you and Vice President Marvin were just fans at a bar watching a Raider game several years ago. How did it go from two fans sitting at a bar to now being the president of our booster club?
Well, a lot of determination and a lot of just hours of putting in work trying to get this club started. It was really simple because we're both diehard Raider fans and really wanted to get back to the community and do stuff out there to help others out, So it makes it real easy.
Kenny, HRRC was established back in 2014. You're a chapter of the D.C. Metro Booster Club. Same kind of question. What are the origins of the Hampton Roads Raider Club?
All right. Shout out to D.C. Metro, first and foremost. We started out with like 8 guys in a Pop Raiders. Pop Raiders are one of our founders. He's the founder of our club. Like 8 guys in his living room. And we just put our heads together and it's like, we went to a few games and saw booster clubs and how they do it. We're like, man, that's pretty cool. Every time we ran into a booster club, they're like, hey, find one in your city and join it and be like us. And we didn't have one, so we pretty much created it, from scratch. And we get about 115 members now, so we're moving and shaking.
So Kenny, how does a person go ahead and become a member of the club? Is there like initiation? Is there hazing? Like what has to happen?
Well, first of all, you can't be a Patriot fan. Ex-Patriot fan. But actually, it's pretty easy. You just find one of the board members, find us. We're on social media, Facebook, Twitter. We just added Snapchat. That's for the young people. We're on all forms of social media, or just come to one of our events and sign up. All you have to do is be a diehard Raider fan.
Troy, similar question. What does somebody have to do to become a member of the club there?
Same thing. You can visit our website, social media, check Facebook out, catch up with us down at our local bar. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Like I said, with social media nowadays, makes everything easier for everybody to get in contact with us. So just check us out on Instagram, too.
And Troy, your website is nvaraiders.org. I think you're based out of Dumfries, Virginia. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Troy, who is Latish Mead? Every time I log on to Facebook or our Twitter account, I see we're tagged in something. She's been promoting this interview like nobody's business. We want to hire her. Where can we get a hold of Latish?
She's awesome.
Easy there. Easy. She is a media manager. She puts in work constantly. Her and May, a PR event coordinator, they go at it, man, and they have fun doing it. So we love them for it.
So Troy, is there structure in a booster club? Like, I understand you're the president, you got a vice president, you got Latish. Is there other members who do certain things, or how does that all work?
So our board consists of a treasurer, PR, event coordinator, media manager, president myself, and my vice president. And we also have a graphics designer for the club. So it's a well-organized thing from the top. And then everything that we do for the board with the board trickles down to the members. And we do things out in the community. And, yeah, it's a great time.
And Raider Nation, again, we're talking to Troy Limerick, president of Northern Virginia Raiders Booster Club, as well as Kenny Mann, president of Hampton Roads Raider Club. Kenny, you guys locate all your events, I believe, over there in Newport News, Virginia, at Bella's Restaurant. Is that correct?
Definitely, yes. Bella's Restaurant and Lounge, 950 J. Clyde Boulevard, Newport News, Virginia. It's right on the border of Hampton, so, right on the border of Hampton and Newport News, Virginia.
Okay. You guys been meeting there a long time? How does that work on a typical game day? Are people going there, or how does that work?
Yeah, actually, we've been there. We're going on our second year there. And, everyone comes out there for the games. Like, we got about 6 flat screen TVs. It's just like it's actually a nightclub, During the week, they party in there at night and they have DJs and, happy hours and things like that. But on Sundays, it's all the Raiders. It's all the Hampton Roads Raiders Club. From game times on Sunday, it's all ours. So all the TVs are all on Raider games. No other games are on. So if you walk in there, it's going to get uncomfortable if you have on a different team's jersey. It's going to get real uncomfortable for you.
I like that.
I'm just being honest. I mean, we invite, we Cowboys, anybody else, if you wear any other jersey, you come on in, but it ain't going to feel right because we blacked that place out.
So is that something you had to work out with the owner, or that kind of just happened organically?
Well, we had to work it out with the owner, actually, who's her dad's a big Raiders fan. We went there. We were looking for venues cause we were bouncing around from bar to bar, when we were small. As we started growing, we was like, we need to find a home base. And we were bouncing around. We went to places like Fuddruckers, and we were bouncing around to some weird places. But when we ended up at Bella's, and she said her dad was a Raiders fan, I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be it for us. So, and that's going on 2 years as our home now, and I think it's going to be our home for quite a while.
Troy, you mentioned doing different community events. What are some things your club has done recently?
We've adopted a highway close to where I live at in Northern Virginia. It's a 4-mile stretch. We also raise money for Susan G. We have donated on Thanksgiving to some of the homeless shelters that's close by, food and stuff. So we do coat drives, a lot of 50-50 raffles during the football games. So, yeah, we do quite a bit.
Once again, guys, thanks for joining us here on Raider Fan Radio. This is Murf. I have a question start off with Kenneth. We always like to ask folks about the origins of your fandom. Tell us a little bit about what formed your Raider fandom. Are you from Virginia originally? Are you from somewhere else? Like, how did you come about becoming a Raider fan?
My story is crazy. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania originally. I grew up an Eagles fan, not to be too long, Super Bowl where the Eagles and Raiders played. They were, we're watching this game, and I'm just getting tired of all the Eagles stuff. Eagles radio, Eagles on TV, Eagles this, Eagles that. I mean, rightfully so. It's Super Bowl, the Eagles are in it. So I just made a bet with a friend of mine. I was like, you know what? I'm going for the other team. I didn't know who the other team was. I was in 5th grade, I just started betting. He's like, hey, I'm going for the other team. And all my friends were like, okay, I'll bet you. Bet a whole bunch of lunch money. So that happened on Friday. Saturday, we went Super Bowl shopping for a Super Bowl party for my dad. Got all this stuff. I was all excited. Sunday, we watched the game. And I actually was rooting for the Eagles. I mean, I forgot about the bet I made at school Friday. So I'm rooting for the Eagles on Sunday. Long story short, they lost 27-10. And I remember being upset, my whole family, my whole city being upset. So I go to school on Monday, and my friend's like, hey, the Eagles lost. I'm like, yeah, everybody's all down. And then my friend goes, hey, remember the bet Friday? Boom, $40 I won. I've been a Raider fan ever since. I mean, they wanted to get an 84. They wanted to get an 84, but I was a little bit smarter. I didn't bet any money, but I was happy. And Marcus Allen, that was my guy. I was hooked, but I mean, so pretty much I got paid $40 to become a Raider fan, and I've been one since 1982.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story. Troy, how about you? How did you? What are the origins of your Raider fandom?
Born and raised in Virginia, and it started in the late 80s and started following this guy named Bo Jackson. Pretty sure everybody knows about him.
Oh, yeah.
Once I started following him, it just escalated to where I found out what team he was playing for, the Raiders, and started following him. The fan base caught my attention, and ever since it's just been balls to the wall, diehard Raider fan.
Troy, I noticed on your website there, one of your slogans is Raiders with attitude, but it wasn't good enough to beat the Hampton Roads Raider Club at the first Battle of the Raiders flag football game this past month.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I told you it's coming, Troy. I warned you.
Yep, I feel you.
Warned you.
Good. That was a good plug. So, yeah.
So we've interviewed several other booster clubs, but none seem to be as involved with other clubs as you guys are. And I don't know if that's simply because of proximity or you guys just like each other a whole lot. But what are the activities? What are the events? What are those things that you guys do together?
We meet at least once a year because we're about almost 3 hours away from each other. So, Northern Virginia and Southern Virginia. So we try to meet at least once to watch a game with each other. But as far as the flag game, this is the first year we've done that, but we're going to make that an annual thing. That way the clubs stay in touch, so we can, we pretty much run Virginia. They got the north side, the north part, and we got the southern part.
And we're going to try to continue this thing, actually keep pushing them, get the other clubs up and down the East Coast together here soon. And it's a Raider it's a Raider family, so, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. We're trying to join forces with everybody, East Coast, West Coast, and have some great events coming up, do some great things out there.
Was it a close game at least, Troy?
Not even, but it's okay. We'll catch them next year.
Kenny, you guys just had your 4th annual family reunion. Let me repeat that. Family reunion. I noticed you called it a family reunion. We often refer to the nation as one big family. What's it like being in the club to you? And what has that meant maybe to you, and maybe what are some stories you've heard from other people who are in the club as well?
Well, that's exactly what it was. It's a family reunion. It's the Raider Nation family. I mean, you don't have to be related. If you got that silver and black on, just come on out. We had about, a little bit over 100 people there. And actually, I didn't see a lot of familiar faces, so that wasn't even everybody. But we invited Northern Virginia down. I mean, it was just a great event. Like I said, we just want to do stuff to, promote the Raider clubs in Virginia. There's only 2 of us, and just promote people to join either the Northern Virginia club or the Hampton Roads Raiders club down in the South. That way we can, we can do things together. Like Troy was saying, we want to do I watch how we try to do things out in Cali. I would like to have like an East Coast convention, like the big one they have in Arizona and stuff like that.
Awesome.
I would like to do, for the booster clubs on the East Coast to connect and just have one big, East Coast convention type thing. So that's what we're working towards. That's the dream.
So what is it like for you guys on the East Coast? Troy, let's start with you. When we look at the map and you look at where you all are located, you have, relatively short distance. You have Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the 2 New York teams, Baltimore, D.C., down the road a little bit further, obviously in Charlotte, you got the Panthers. What is it like being a Raider fan in D.C., and what is the typical fan base like? Is it just a whole bunch of different fans of different teams, being that you got so many so close, or what is it like being a Raider fan there?
Actually, being in Virginia, it's all over the map. Steeler fans, Cowboy fans, so it kind of sets the Redskin fans in a frenzy sometimes when they're when they're playing the games up here at FedEx Field because they get swamped. It's crazy because we're right here near Quantico, and a lot of the Marines and stuff that get stationed over here, they're from Cali, so a lot of them are Raider fans.
Oh, nice.
Which they migrate with us, and yeah, we've met some great people coming and traveling the distance and getting stationed over here and being in this area. So it's definitely been fun getting with those people, and yeah.
So does it give you, obviously you get an opportunity to travel to a lot of the Raiders road games with all those NFL locations close to you. Is it typically you find it's a welcome environment when you go to these places, when you go to Pittsburgh or go to Philly? I got to imagine you're getting an earful when you're walking in that place with a Raider jersey, right?
Well, of course. But everybody, as long as you keep a level head and everybody respects you going there and just let them know that you're there to have fun, they welcome you with open arms. Funny because a lot of the fans will say, they love when the Raiders are actually in town, tailgating and stuff, because they see how we do. We just do it big, you do it big or go home. So they love us to have us around, and some of them will come party with us. You'll see it in the videos next day, and yeah, as long as we keep it respectful with them, they keep us, they give us the respect right back. So.
Well, the Raiders will be on the road in D.C. this year. They're playing on September 24th. They'll be at Washington on the 22nd, 23rd of September. There's the Raider Nation meet and greet at Tap Sports Bar in National Harbor, Maryland. Kenneth, is that something that you're hosting, or tell us about that event?
Well, first thing off, you guys, I don't know if you're coming over for that. It's the D.C. game. Any Raider fans that are coming over for the D.C. game, you do not want to miss this. This Raider Nation meet and greet at Tap Sports Bar, which is inside the MGM Grand. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Oh wow!
It's a three head. Yeah, MGM Grand is awesome. It's not as big as Vegas, but I mean it's awesome. It's a three club event. It's Hampton Roads Raiders Club, DC Metro, and of course Northern Virginia Booster Club. So all three clubs are going to be having their hands in throwing this meet and greet. They're going to be Raider prizes. It's going to be 50-50 raffles. It's going to be fun. It's going to be food. It's just going to be, Raider. We're going to do it up Raider Nation style. So we got our hands in the meet and greet, and then also we got our hands in the tailgate on Sunday. All three clubs are doing that also. So we're encouraging all Raider fans, if you're coming into the DC game, try to get there Friday to enjoy the whole weekend. You know how the Raider Nation does. It's going to be a weekend thing, not just the game on Sunday.
That's right.
Kenny, I appreciate the invite. I actually just spent a week over there in D.C. for some trainings. We were staying on 14th and 8th Street over there in D.C. And I don't know how you guys deal with the heat in the summertime. My goodness. I would shower, walk a block, and be sweating. It was ridiculous, man. I give you guys props.
You're kind of used to it, but the traffic is the worst part.
Yes.
All right, boys. So whenever we end an interview, we like to have a message for the fans. And me and Murph's biggest stick on here is we're not insiders. We're not, connected to the Raiders anyhow. We're just fans who love the Raiders and like talking about Raider stuff with other fans, right? But as you guys know, with the Raiders moving to Vegas, there's kind of this division popping up here and there. So, Troy, we're going to go you first, and Kenny going to go you second. What's like your message, to Raider Nation as a whole? Troy, why don't you go ahead and start us off with that?
Yeah, I would just say to stand behind the team. The logo hasn't changed, the colors haven't changed, the history's still there. They moved to Vegas, but they're making another chapter in their book. I can understand everything that was going on in Oakland, but I hope everybody understands that they're trying to make another leap in this chapter with what they're doing, and hopefully they'll get that ring before they leave out of there and leave them with a good feeling.
I agree, Troy. That'd be a good thing if they brought that ring, and
yeah.
I think it's well said. The history goes with them. Yes. Kenny, leave it to you, man. Last words.
Well, I mean, I totally empathize with the Oakland, with the people in Oakland. I mean, if it was up to me, if I had it my way, we definitely would stay in Oakland. I mean, we were from the beginning with the Oakland Raiders. That's the way I think it should stay. On the other hand, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was a L.A. Raider. I was an Oakland Raider. So I'm gonna be a Vegas Raider too. I mean, I'm a Raider, no matter what. I mean, we got 2 Super Bowls in Oakland. We got one in L.A. We might as well get one for Vegas too. So
That's awesome.
There you go. Be the first team to get one in all three, huh? Or 3 different cities.
exactly. I mean,
All right,
LA
again-
only has one Super Bowl.
It's true. It's true. And it doesn't belong to the Rams or the Chargers, which is
That's
just
right.
weird.
Nope.
All right, again, we've been talking with Troy Limerick, president of the Northern Virginia Raiders Booster Club, as well as Kenny Mann, president of the Hampton Roads Raiders Club. You can find both of the clubs very active on Facebook, Twitter. Northern Virginia has a website called NVARaiders.org, and I believe HRRC is now on Snapchat, so you can send them all those fun pictures that will be deleted in 8 seconds, so you can feel safe. All right, Jeff. Hey, a big shout-out again to Latish for promoting this thing like a beast. So really appreciate all her work. And we appreciate you guys for carrying forth the message of Raider Nation where you're at in Virginia over there. You know, I'm up here in Oregon, Murph's in Tennessee. We were both born in the Bay Area, but have since moved out. But that's the beautiful thing about being a Raiders fan is when you're walking down the street and you see somebody in a Howie Long jersey, you sit and stop and talk to them. And you become almost like
definitely.
instant kin, right? It's just this brotherhood that's different. You mentioned, I think it was Troy, it was going to games in Philly, how they love to embrace the Raider Nation because they do things different. You know, me and Murph have gone to games in Atlanta and in Tennessee, and people embrace it. You know, it's not like this. It's just it's different being a Raiders fan. So I appreciate you guys representing out there in Virginia, and we'd love to have you back on during the season as well.
Well, definitely.
I'm looking
Appreciate
forward
you
to that. That'd be
helping
awesome.
promote this event.
Yes. Maybe we'll do that right before the event. We'll have you back on one more time. All right. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys coming on, and take care and go Raiders.
All right, go Raiders. Thank you.
Go Raiders.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Murph. Excellent interview. I appreciate Troy coming on as well as Kenny once again. Also, a big shout out to Latish, who might be the best media manager we've ever had the pleasure to come in contact with. She was promoting the show. She's done more promotion for our little podcast in 1 week than we've done since we've been freaking doing this thing for almost a year now. So appreciate Latish for all her efforts out there. Murph, I thought it was a good interview. Not because we're great interviewers. I just thought the content was great, mainly coming from them. I liked that they're booster clubs who aren't fighting with each other, but more or less they want to get involved with each other. They have the flag football game together. They're doing the DC invasion thing together. I like to see the booster clubs coming together. And I also liked, I think it was Kenny, who was talking about wanting to get, why isn't there an East Coast Raiders convention, right? I thought that was kind of a cool thing. And then the other aspect I thought that I walked away with was just the fact that Kenny called the Hampton Roads Raider Club basically annual barbecue, called it the annual family reunion, which I thought was beautiful, man, because we've always talked about on this show, Raider Nation is a family. It's you're walking down the street, you see a guy in a Howie Long jersey or a Matuzak jersey, you're like, dude, what's going on? How you doing? Next thing you know, it's like your brothers essentially, right? And so I love that he didn't pull any punches with that. He simply called it the family reunion, which I thought was beautiful. What were your thoughts on the interview?
Yeah, well, first off, let me echo your sentiment with Letitia. She was great to work with as far as getting everything set up, and thank you to her for her hard work of promoting the interview and the connection of Raiders Fan Radio with those two booster groups. So we just really appreciate that hard work. Man, it's always cool to me what these booster clubs do, and it's the community outreach. And it's, when they mention the different organizations that they do, it's so easy to just think of a booster club as a group that gets together and they meet at a bar, or they meet at, whatever location, and they just get together and root for the Raiders and, you know what I mean, and eat wings and drink beer and do whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you think of the overall, sometimes stereotypical thought of a booster club. And it goes so much deeper than that. It's kind of the same thing with the super fans, right? Like when you look at, the Violators and Guerrillerillas and Tuzaks and all those guys, and they look like these big bad dudes and they're scary and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, they're working in children's hospitals in their time off, and they're, they're doing a lot of charitable work and a lot of foundation work and things like that. And the booster clubs are the same way. And I really dig that. And I think that that's one of the reasons that has always attracted me to having those guys on our show is that it gives them a platform to promote that stuff. Because that's the good stuff. And those are the things that those are the things that transcend the fandom, and it transcends the geography of your fandom, right? That those outreaches in those communities is that's much bigger than where the team is playing, but then also to build on that, I forget which one of them said it, but you said, I was an Oakland Raider fan, I was an LA Raider fan, I was an Oakland Raider fan again, and I'm going to be a Vegas Raider fan. I think that was a pretty cool message too, that it's, the logo's the same, the laundry's the same, and, we're going to root for the Raiders no matter what.
And they mentioned that the history will follow them to Vegas. And I think that's just it. It's not, and we're not going to get into a whole much of the town debate and stuff like that, but it's just a history. And that goes to show you can be a diehard Raiders fan living in Oakland, living in Vegas, living in Denmark, where we're currently the 81st top-rated podcast, and living in Virginia, man. And Kenny and Troy definitely brought that fire with them and representing hardcore out there. And I think it was Troy who mentioned, was it Troy? I think going to Philadelphia Eagles game, and how their fan base embraced the Raiders and loved when Raider Nation came out there, because Raider Nation just does things a little differently. There's a little more passion, right? There's typically a little more knowledge when it comes to your team. And typically there's a little more crazy, right, with the Raiders. And I think that's what people embrace. And we'll get into this again with this article coming up that Adam Rank wrote. There's just something about the Raiders that people like. And it's one of those polarizing things, if you will, right? You love them and you hate them. You love them and you hate them. So again, thank you, Troy. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Latish, for making that happen. We're going to try to get those guys back on the air right around the first part of September to promote their Oakland Raider Nation meet and greet, which is going to happen on the 22nd and 23rd, right before the game on the 24th. So, Murph, without any further fondue, let's get into the first topic, which is Adam Rank's story on why you should root for the Raiders.
Hey, so this is Uncle Mosh, and apparently all you got to do to host a podcast is have a microphone, a garage, and a couple of Derek Carr jerseys. Ha! These two did it. You're listening to Raiders Fan Radio with Sonny and Murf.
Really appreciate you, Uncle Mosh. Really appreciate your pleasant-sounding voice doing those audio hits for us. All right, Adam Rank wrote a story titled Why You Should Root for the Raiders, Murph. Right off the bat, you brought this story to my attention, so I'm kind of late to it. A busy week here. Right off the bat, he mentioned Star Wars. And if you're going to mention Star Wars in an article talking about the Raiders, I don't have to read it any further. Talk about clickbait, I'm done. Right?
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
But he referenced them with the Star Wars reference was a little bit about the Raiders have their own Imperial March. The Autumn Wind is the Raiders' basically theme song, if you will. What other team has that, right? The Raiders are the bad boys of the NFL. And it's kind of weird now because you got nice guy Derek Carr, but don't get it twisted. He'll step on your throat in the game, right? Meaning that he won't pull any punches. He's out for blood. He wants to win. And so he still carries that mystique with him as being a gunslinger, if you will, right? But he points out, and he makes this assertion, which I don't know if I completely buy into or not, but he says the NFL is so popular today is because of the Raiders. Now, I don't know if he's saying, like, the reason the NFL is so popular today, based on the last 50 years, is because of the Raiders, or is he saying the NFL is so popular right now in 2017 because the Raiders have this new resurgence going on? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really sure there. But he also talked about how because the Raiders are so popular, it's not just people love to see them win, people love to see them lose. And he even made a reference to, a guy can make a buck writing an anti-Raiders blog back in the day, but he states that's actually a compliment to the Raiders because that's how powerful the Raiders are. And then he goes on to talk about several different aspects of the Raiders, and obviously he mentions Al Davis, and the article just goes on to name some really cool stuff. So I kind of want to give that to you because you kind of brought it to my attention. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on that article?
Well, It's a phenomenal article. He wrote it at some point this week. I don't remember exactly when. It was sometime around the midweek. And the article is titled "Why You Should Root for the Oakland Raiders." And for those of you who don't know who Adam Rank is, he's a writer for NFL.com, and he does a lot of the NFL Network shows. My favorite one that he's been on is the Madden one, where him and Maurice Jones-Drew, basically they team up with other guys and then they play Madden on the show. It's like they're Madden. You and I are big fans of Madden, and it's funny because he mentions Madden in the article. But so Adam Rank is he's all over NFL Network and NFL.com. So when he put this thing out there, it obviously got my attention because it was titled "Why You Should Root for the Raiders." But then, as you mentioned, he starts off from the very beginning of the thing and starts relating it back to Star Wars, which you and I are both huge Star Wars fans, and to equate, the Empire's Imperial March, the classic John Williams theme song, to the Autumn Wind, and by saying that, essentially Raider Nation has its own theme song, I thought was really cool. It's a really great way and a great analogy a great way to start off the article. And, as much as we love the Autumn Wind, we kind of go out of our way to not play it on our show. And it's not because of any, lack of love for it. It's just because, you hear it plenty, Raider Nation. You don't need to, you don't have to go very far to hear the Autumn Wind. So it's not out of lack of respect or love for that beautifully written, poem by Steve Sable and the music that goes behind it. He starts off saying that the Raiders have that, and then he says we have our own emperor, right? Our emperor is Al Davis, and I can't tell you how many jokes we used to make, back about him being the emperor way back when. Rest in peace, Al. But towards the end of his life there, and he was looking a little rough, and he was kind of looking like the emperor of the Galactic Empire, right? So that was pretty cool that he drew those two comparisons right off the bat. I think that to answer your question as far as what his intent was about the Raiders adding to the popularity of the National Football League, I think he's talking about throughout the history of the league. Because I think that when you look at historically, it was the Raiders versus everybody, right? It was Al Davis versus the NFL. It was the Raiders versus the world. And so I think that, the people that aren't Raider fans, they want to see the Raiders lose. And so, I think that by it adds interest and it adds intrigue to a Raider game, even if you're not directly associated. You could say that nowadays that's probably the Patriots, right? I would say would be the closest example, that a team that you will tune in to watch them lose. For me, it's the Cowboys. I've never liked the Cowboys. I never will. It doesn't matter what incarnation of the Cowboys. I've never liked them. I don't like the players. I don't like their coaches. I don't like their owner. I don't like any of them, and I never will. I like them more when they retire. I love Dion on NFL Network. You and I both do. We love Primetime and what's his show, Prime Live or whatever, that one that he was doing this last year where he had Derek Carr on, all that. We love that stuff, but through the normal course of a season, I can't stand the Cowboys. So I think that was what the Raiders became and have become and are to a lot of people. Of course, that falls off when they're not as competitive, but now that we're competitive again, I'm sure that we'll see that start to pop back up. So I think that's what he's speaking in reference to.
There's about probably at least 10 topics on this. The turnarounds, talking about, how they were horrible forever. It took long enough. Talking about the quarterbacks, but he throws out this question. Do you know the last starting quarterback to start for the Raiders prior to Carr?
I do. We saw him live, and coincidentally, I put an Instagram picture up this week of you when we met Willie Brown at the Raiders Sunday night game in Oakland, and we were there to see them play the Chargers, and that was Terrell Pryor.
And he's the current starting receiver for the Redskins, right?
And looking pretty good, by the way, too.
He looks good. He just talks. He talks about that. Talks about Derek Carr. Talks about beast mode, which I think is pretty cool. He says it's one of his favorite stories of the offseason. I think it's everybody's favorite story. And most people love beast mode. We love beast mode. I know I've been critical of it. I'm just waiting for beast mode to produce on the field, but I think it's a great story. And he mentions that as well. Go ahead.
Well, and let me jump in on you. Two things that you mentioned there that I think are really cool that he points out. These are two things that were news to me. Number one is that when he talked about Derek Carr, he threw up a link that showed a picture of Derek Carr wearing his practice jersey. And Derek Carr said he's never going to change practice jerseys. I didn't know that. The guy's been wearing the same practice jersey every year that he's been in the NFL. And when you see the picture of it, it's all faded out and dirty and stuff. That was kind of cool. So, and then also something else he points out in relation to Marshawn that you just mentioned. Did you know that Marshawn Lynch leads the NFL in touchdowns since 2011, even counting last year when he didn't play?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's pretty solid.
51 touchdowns.
Pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool.
Should have had 52 in the Super Bowl, but that's neither here nor there. Has an article about King, your favorite guy. Then he touches on Vegas. And here's where I thought the article gets interesting.
Yes.
He states right off the bat, I'll be honest, I never felt the Raiders in Oakland. And so on one hand, I'm like, all right, you're done. You get no cred. Like, how are you going to say that, right? But then he states, well, the reason he didn't is because they were always L.A. to him. He grew up with the Raiders in Los Angeles, and, therefore that's why it's stuck. But beyond that, he states this, which I think is interesting. They're still the most popular team in Southern California. He states by far. And then he points out how Vegas is really just a 3-hour trip from L.A. He calls it a suburb, but, I don't know about that. And, he's very empathetic towards the city of Oakland, towards the fans of Oakland, I should say. He's not trying to bash them or trying to make light of anybody's pain. But he talks about the Raiders are going to freaking Vegas. Like, Vegas, right? Like, the Raiders are already one of, the most popular teams in all of sports. Not just the NFL. The Raiders brand is global, right? It's global. And then you're going to partner that with Vegas? Like, that is going to be the ultimate NFL destination for everybody. Not just for opposing fans, but also for Raiders fans, right? How about those Raiders fans who live in Europe or just so far away, they want to get to a game they never had before, but now they can go to Vegas. And here's the truth of it. Vegas has changed. It's more family-friendly now, and so you can bring your family there and go to the game, And so he touches on the Vegas aspect, which I think is really cool, and he did it classy, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that he did it very clear. He did it without bashing Oakland, and I think that there's a lot of, or I want to say a lot of lack. That doesn't make sense. There has been a lack of that type of reporting in that, it doesn't have to be one versus the other. Both two things can exist simultaneously. Exactly. You can still respect and have reverence for the history and the quality of Raiders play and the organization in Oakland. Like, you can have respect for all of that, and you can embrace where they're going in Vegas. And I like to think that we do that on our show. But yes, it very much comes out, and he makes a good point that he doesn't take any shots at Oakland. But what he does say is that, look, the idea that no one's going to go to the games is kind of a silly notion. Like, it's not that far from Los Angeles. The Raiders already dominate the Southern California fan base. And he makes mention that, and they're going to Las Vegas. It's a for real city. It's like he says, it's got stoplights and schools and everything. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be plenty. I think this idea, this notion that's being floated out there of, well, there's not a fan base there to support it. I think you're sorely mistaken. I think that's way off the mark. And I think that the those that are trying to forward that line of thinking are really grasping at things to try to prove that point, because all of the evidence is there that says there is not only plenty of fan base there to support this team, but like you said, it's going to flourish, because even if you get outside a couple of hours of the stadium, you have an entire global community of Raider fans that are going to travel to this. And here's and also when I think about the folks that are saying like, oh, who's going to drive a couple hours? I don't know. How about Wayne Mabry, who drives 7 hours back and forth every single home game already? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a walk in the park for Wayne. He's not going to have to get up at 2 a.m. He can sleep until 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I just think of things like that. So Adam was very eloquent in the way that he stated it in the article, and bravo to him, because you're right. He did it in a way that doesn't take a shot at Oakland. And again, Raider Nation, both of these things can exist simultaneously. You can still be respectful of Oakland, and you can still embrace where they're going in Vegas.
If you're hating him right now, keep reading, because then he states this, and I love this. There's only one nation in sports, Raider Nation. The rest of you are posers. Then he says, be a touch more creative and think of something else. You know who you are. Done. I love that. And that's it. That's, every caption, basically every heading has a paragraph or two. For that one, it's just that. It's just 3 sentences, There's only one nation in sports, Raider Nation. The rest of you are posers. Be a touch more creative and think of something else. You know who you are. I love that. He talks about going to a Raider game, talks about the black hole, being just a bunch of fun-loving men and women. But then he also points out this. He says the black hole, the Raiders are miserable for most of this last millennium, but the black hole never wavered. And I think all of the talk about the Vegas and Oakland thing, none of the talk is ever a slant against the people in the black hole, right? Like we talk about all the time. There's the diehards who are always there, which is the black hole, and then you have fans kind of come and go. But the black hole has never wavered. And if there's anything that sucks about the Vegas move, it's that the black hole is now a big question mark. What's going to happen with it? Is it going to move with the Raiders? Are they going to section off a certain part of the stadium to be the black hole? Or are the majority of the people who make up the black hole going to be able to go to the games? But something that happened organic can never be duplicated. And to me, that's the saddest thing about the move, is that the black hole is now just a big question mark. But I like the fact that he touched on it, don't you think?
Yeah, well, yes, I'm glad he brought it up, and he's absolutely correct. And he mentions by name, Gorilla Rilla and the Violator and Pharaoh and, the Raider Pharaoh. And so, he's highlighted some of the, obviously the most high-profile fans and some our favorite fans. And, I think that it's important that you made the point, and he doesn't touch on this in the article about what's going to happen when they get to Vegas, but you brought it up, is that the black hole in that community and that scene was organic. It's going to be there. It's going to be there in Vegas. They're going to have the black hole. In fact, who knows? They might even construct the stadium particularly to where that end zone is closer to the field. I could fully see something like that happening, and they'll, and those seats will be black versus the seats in the rest of the arena or the stadium or whatever. But it will be fabricated. No matter what, it will be fabricated. Exactly. And it won't be the same. It will still be there, and the folks will be nuts, and the ones that can make the trip, like we mentioned, the Violator, he'll be there. And the ones that can't make the trip, and the ones that have retired their fandom or whatever else, guess what? There'll be somebody else to take their place. There'll be new super fans that will be down there, that will be at every single game, and it will still be cool, and it will still be rowdy. And, look, it's not like they don't build stadiums to funnel noise, right? We've seen, look at stupid Seattle, right? They built that stadium to funnel noise to the field and to the end zones. You know what I mean? Specifically to be disruptive. Look, they could probably do that. Again, it's organic in Oakland, but they can do something like that. So who knows what they're going to come up with. I'm sure they'll do something because it's too big of a part of the Raider legacy to ignore. Like, you're just not going to leave it blank, right? You're just not going to leave it open. They're going to do something with it. But no matter what, it will never be as cool as the black hole as it exists today.
He goes on to talk about two of our passions, got us into podcasting, Madden and Techno Bowl. He calls it Techno Bow. But he talks about Madden, and he makes the correlation to Derek Carr. And this is a quote from David Carr, who told Adam Rank this. And this is David's quote. He states, "I don't know if Derek would have been so drawn towards football if it hadn't been towards Madden," David Carr tells Adam Rank. David continues, "He is a good enough athlete that he could have played something else. But because of Madden, it became our connection. We bonded. He got into football because of Madden." I love that. And then I started thinking about it, Murph. I remember getting, I think it was Madden 05. No. This was, no. Way back. This is Madden like 90.
Yeah, it's like 98 or something, dude, right?
No. I'm talking about me getting Madden 94, 95. Remember when you could be the old school teams? You used to be able to be like the 76 Raiders and stuff like that. That was in those old ones, right? Early 90s?
Right, yeah.
So I remember I'm in the living room. I'm playing Madden. My dad comes walking by, right? Who I got all my Raider fandom from, my dad. because walking by and he goes, what are you playing? I'm playing the Raiders. Or I'm playing Madden. And I'm playing the Raiders. He goes, really? I was like, yeah. And check it out, Dad. I go, I could be the 76 Raiders. He goes, no way. So he thought it was super cool, right? So he walks up, and we're sitting there. My dad never played a video game in his life. He thought they were stupid. But he loved the fact that you could be the 76 Raiders on Madden. So he watches me play a couple downs while I was on defense. And then he goes like this. He goes, why don't you bring your safety up and have him be an extra linebacker? And I'm like, all right. And so I've been playing that way ever since, man. Like Madden, Madden has this special connection, right? Me and you, right? We started a Madden league and played Madden for, 5 years in a very competitive Madden league that only I represent Super Bowl winning. But you did win a Super Bowl of an offshoot league of it, but it doesn't really count. Asterisk next to it. Anyway, so, we had a love affair with Madden forever. And our biggest argument was always who's going to get the Raiders the following year, right? And so Madden has just been this staple for 25 years?
Over 25, yeah. 27, I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, and so really anybody who's like under 30 only knows of Madden as the name behind the football game, but not a lot of people remember John Madden was one of the best color analysts of all time, right? Also is one of the best coaches of all time, And so just the fact of just Madden alone, I thought that was really cool that he made that, because not a lot of people, I think, go there, and he went there. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, well, it's neat because, you mentioned something I think that is really unique about Madden, and it shows what a big personality he is. And when it comes to the NFL, is that somebody like your dad or my dad knew Madden as a coach, as the coach of the Raiders, and you mentioned his success as a coach. Madden still to this day has the highest winning percentage of any coach in the NFL that coached for 10 or more seasons. Yes, more than Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi's winning percentage is 738. Madden is 759. So when you talk about those old school guys, that's what they knew Madden as. When I was growing up, I knew Madden as the guy on the Miller Lite commercials and the guy that was doing broadcasts with Pat Summerall and the six-legged turkey and all that kind of stuff. Of course, as I got a little bit older and Madden became not only more popular, but it became a much bigger thing on its own, then I became a Madden, obviously a big Madden guy as well as far as the game goes. But growing up, though, it was only I knew of Madden the coach and eventually knew of Madden the game, but my opinion and knowledge of him was formed over his broadcast career. Then you look at our kids, my kids, right? My kids are 14 and 11. Yours are a lot younger than that because they're coming up, but they're going to know Madden as a game. They don't know about him as a coach. They don't know about him as a broadcaster. They're going to know that as a game. So it's like you have these different phases of different generations, I guess, that are going to know him. To go back to Star Wars, it's like you have the original trilogy fans, you have the prequel fans, now you have the sequel fans. You know what I mean? Like you have different generations of fans that attach to different things, and then you become aware of these other things as your fandom grows. Well, it's totally like that with Madden. And I thought that was really cool because we just don't hear I don't think we don't hear Madden associated enough with the Raiders. Now that may be, to somebody on the outside looking in as a non-Raider fan, maybe like, you're crazy. We see him all the time, but I just don't feel like we see him enough. Like, he was such a dang serious, and I'm not overstating this, a blessing to the freaking sport and the accomplishments that he's had and the personality that he is and everything that he's brought, the good, amazing things he's brought to the league. And frankly, not to be morbid about it, but he's getting up there a little bit and he's had some health concerns. Like, we're not going to have John for much longer. You know what I mean? I hate to be that way, but you know what I mean? So we need to really embrace him, man. And the more we can talk about him and the more we can revel in what he's done, man, I think that's a great thing. So good on Adam Rank to put that in this article.
Well, and just one more thing on Madden. I mean, he was it was that 76 team, that Raiders team in the 70s was Madden. I mean, that was Madden's personality. We talk a lot about the characters of that team, but that was Madden, and that was Al Davis. I mean, can you imagine those guys back in the heyday of that 70s team? Those guys, talking about players and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Madden was the reason that team was so good. And so it was cool. This article, the more I read it, the more I'm in love with it. And, it's confirmation bias 100%. If you love the Raiders, you'll walk away loving them that much more because of this article. But he goes places that I rarely went. and he does them well. The Vegas and Oakland thing, the Madden thing. He even brings up Techno Bowl, right? With how Bo Jackson was just so dominant in Super Techno Bowl. Remember that? I mean, you could take Bo and run around in circles and then still go, right? It was ridiculous, you know?
Well,
but then he oh, go ahead.
Well, you're already going there. I'll shut up. You go. I know what you're going to say, and I love it.
He even says this. The title of this next heading is Not Enough Credit.
Yes.
And he talks about Tom Flores and Jim Plunkett. Go ahead, Murph.
It is an atrocity that Tom Flores especially, but even Plunkett as well, that these guys are not in the Hall of Fame, and they're never in the discussion of, look, I get it, Plunkett's not going to be in the discussion of greatest quarterbacks, but Super Bowl quarterbacks, yes. Flores, in terms of his winning Super Bowls, dude, guys, the only two guys, two-time Super Bowl champ and MVP, not in the Hall of Fame. Two-time Super Bowl champ, head coach, not in the Hall of Fame. How does that even make sense? And he even points out in the article, which I think is cool, that not only was Flores the first Latino head coach, which is cool, but outside of that, the fact that he was amazingly successful at it. Like, why is this guy not in the Hall of Fame? And it never... Thankfully, we got Stabler. That was like the first, those were the big three to me, the big, huge oversights. And I'm glad he's there. I hate that it was posthumously and he didn't get in when he was still alive. But the fact that he's there and they paid respects to the Stabler family and Madden was alive to be able to be there to induct him and all that was beautiful. But we still got two more to go, man. We got two more to go. And darn it, Flores and Plunkett need to get, you're absolutely right. They need to get the recognition because they've freaking done it. They won 2 Super Bowls, man. Come on now. Like in 2 different cities. Like, I mean, when you look at the list of firsts and the list of onlys that those two guys have accomplished, it's like a freaking slam dunk, man. Are you kidding me? A Super Bowl MVP and he's not in the freaking Hall of Fame? Unbelievable.
Yeah, nothing more to say about that. I wholeheartedly agree. Goes on to bring out the Tuck rule. I thought he took an interesting take on the Tuck rule when he says way overrated, the Tuck rule loss. He says nobody was beating the Rams in that Super Bowl.
He's right.
So he says, it's okay that they lost in the Tuck rule. Not that it's okay, but that, look, they weren't going to beat the Rams in that Super Bowl. That was the greatest show on turf. So, I thought that was a kind of a cool thing. Going down to the final snap, I think this is neat. And this again, I think, shows the objectivity of his writing that trumped his subjectivity. What I mean is that the facts of where the Raiders are at today trumped how he felt about the Raiders growing up. And he stated this. He stated, I never thought I'd ever advocate being a Raiders fan, but here we are. I was on the wrong side of the Raiders-Ram rivalry in Southern California, and I'll be honest when I say I never cared for the team. I guess we can say I've evolved. And he just points out the roster. Marshawn, Derek Carr, Mack, Amari Cooper, right? There's just so many good things about this team. So I think this is one of the awesomest articles I've read about the Raiders. There's a lot of hype coming up. There's a lot of good things about the Raiders being talked about right now. But this one just kind of encapsulated them all very, very well. And I think that was really, really cool. And he also talked about in the top part of it, he said how the Raiders lose to the Patriots. Patriots go on to face the Rams, yada yada. And back then, the Raiders were kind of the evil empire. But now the Patriots are the evil empire. But the Raiders, Murph, the Raiders are the Rebel Alliance.
That's right.
Coming down to take off the.
Sorry.
You farting over there or what?
I was trying to do the Force theme underneath you talking, and it didn't come out very well.
Yeah, that was good. It was good. Anyway, so great article. Again, the article is called "Why You Should Root for the Oakland Raiders" by Adam Rank on NFL.com. Moving on, Murph.
Well, one last thing, and you kind of brought it up that he's now become my best friend. I'm pretty sure we're close. Well, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're best friends, and the reason why is that we had a very intimate Twitter interaction. Intimate like a couple of men would. You know what I mean? Like in a nice way.
Yes.
Yes. I tweeted him that your Raiders article. I said this perfect Raiders article at Adam Rank. Perfect Raiders article It's beautiful. Straight truth. For a non-fan, you described exactly why we love our team. Hashtag Raider Nation. And he wrote back a very lengthy, thought-out tweet that said this. Appreciate you, comma. Thank you. Adam, thank you.
When are you guys going to the Catalina wine mixer together?
You're listening to Raiders Fan Radio with Sonny and Murf, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans.
Obi Melifonwu? Is that how you say his name, Murf?
Obi Melifonwu. Hope me, Obi Melifonwu. You're our only hope.
There you go. There you go. Recently, he was on Good Morning Football, and I believe, Murf, you have the audio for that. So we'll go ahead and listen to that right now.
Well, everyone's talking about the Raiders, but the Kansas City Chiefs actually won the division last year.
Beat them twice.
And beat them twice. So I ask, Obi, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, you've got the new rookie Kareem Hunt as the running back. Can the Raiders defense stop the Chiefs this year?
Oh, I think so. Like I said, with all the guys that we have this year, with everybody that's coming back and with everybody that we've added in our coaching staff and everybody that's just been really for the cause, I think we could stop them.
What I'm talking about, man.
Help me out, Obi.
I know we could stop.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I wanted to hear. Forget that I think. I know we can stop.
Before we let
Murf, I like it. I mean, what's he supposed to say there, right? Can you beat the Chiefs? No, they're really good. Alex Smith can throw a laser 6 yards down the field. Like, what's he supposed to say there, right? That they can't beat him? Of course he's going to say they can, that they can beat him and stuff. It's the same confidence we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, where Derek Carr was talked about how it compares to Rodgers and those guys. And, you give him respect for sure, but, you're not going to say you can't beat them. You're going to say you can hang with them. So I like the fact that he stood up for that and said that. It's interesting that he was even on the show, right? He hasn't played a down for the Raiders yet, second-round pick. So I thought that was interesting in and of itself. But Murf, there was some other people who took some different angles on that, wasn't there?
Yeah, so this is frankly why we're talking about it today. This happened a couple of weeks ago before we recorded our last show. And in watching the interview, and you can find it on NFL.com, it's not hard to find. In watching the interview, it was, I thought rather uneventful, frankly. You mentioned the fact that it was surprising to begin with, being that he's literally not even on the team yet. Like, he hadn't signed, right? Like, him and Conley still haven't signed contracts, so he's not even technically a member of the NFL yet, but he's on NFL Network, and I thought it was cool, and it was fun, and they played up the whole Star Wars thing a whole bunch and everything, and it was a fun little thing. And then at the end there, he says what he says about the Chiefs, and it is exactly, as you already mentioned, exactly what you would want to hear from somebody. I mean, what else would he say when it comes to that? Are you talking, what do you want him to say? Oh, I don't know. I don't think we can beat him. We hadn't beat him in 3 years. We got swept the last 2 seasons, so I don't think we're going to have a chance. Like, really? And so then he said what he said, and he kind of fumbled into the last part of it when he said, I know we can beat him. And again, it's what you would want. So some media outlets have reported it as Raiders rookie takes a shot at the division champs. Raiders rookie Obi Melifonwu was talking smack to the Kansas City Chiefs. They have positioned his quotes on this show as some hardline finger pointing at the Chiefs. And I think that is a little bit irresponsible. You just heard what it sounded like. You could hear that he's clearly a rookie. Like he's, you know what I mean? You could tell he's not quite polished yet in his delivery, and he's a little uncomfortable, maybe a little nervous. I mean, it's a good lighthearted crew there in Good Morning Football, but you could still tell that he was, he's still kind of feeling his way a little bit, as a rookie should, as they all are, right? But I just thought that was kind of unfair to pin that on him, that he was, quote, talking smack or, taking a jab. There was no jab. He was just making a statement that every other freaking NFL athlete will say in a press conference. Yes, I think we could beat them. We got to take it one day at a time. We got to work hard. We got to study the film, right? Stop me if you heard this one before, Sonny. It's unreal the way that some people have reacted to this.
Yeah, I think it's just bad journalism, and I think it's more evidence of kind of clickbait stuff and stretching, if you will, stretching the truth and stuff. So we didn't really like the article that was written about it by that one website, which we won't name. But again, be careful what you read. If you see a title that like makes the hairs in the back of your neck stand up for whatever reason, check it, right? Check it in this day and age. You see an article that you either get super excited about or super angry about, read it first, check the facts, make sure what they're saying is true, because it's a business and they want to get your attention. And, if nobody's paying attention, somebody could say, oh, man, Obi's a punk, right? Not signed with the team, second-round draft pick, is a rookie. Why is he talking junk about the Chiefs? That's stupid, right? You could sit there and bash the guy, but then when you listen to it, it's like, not at all, right? Not at all. So be careful out there what you're reading, and that's the only reason we bring it up. We're not trying to bash anybody else or think we're better than anybody else, but you just got to be careful out there with what you're reading and what you want to, base your emotions on for that day, if you will. All right, Murph, moving on.
You're listening to The Violator, and I'm live on Raiders Fan Radio. Where you at, baby?
Is it ever okay to switch your fandom? Article by Ross Tucker. He writes on his website, sportsonearth.com. Ross Tucker, as most people know him, not as the former offensive lineman for several teams, but as the backup co-host of the Dan Patrick Show. No offense to Ross, but I usually turn it off when Dan's not there. He states, is it ever okay to switch your fandom? And we thought this was relevant because 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we interviewed a guy, a former Chargers fan who's now a Raiders fan, and he gave his reasonings for why he switched to the Raiders. And simply, Murph, correct me if I'm wrong here, it was really just to watch somebody beat his former team. That was really his reasoning in a nutshell, was that he wanted to watch somebody beat his former team. And he stated he had always admired the Raiders from a distance, maybe from the other side of the field, if you will. And so he chose to root for the Raiders versus the Chiefs and the Donkeys there. So this article by Ross Tucker takes a little different spin, Murph, and why don't you go ahead and lead that off?
Well, basically, he's coming at it from the perspective of, is it okay to ever change your fandom based on what the team has done? And he's speaking in reference to the Redskins and their, fumbling of the Kirk Cousins situation and them signing that quarterback or any quarterback to a long-term contract and kind of setting up the franchise for future success. And at what point do you stop supporting the team based on the decisions that ownership has made? Maybe what the team stands for. Maybe at what point does your fandom take a hit, and do you think about switching? Oakland A's. But so at what point do you look at what the team has done and you just don't necessarily agree with it and feel good about rooting for them and supporting them and want to move on? So he says something in the article about at a certain point, if you don't agree with what's going on, the direction of the organization, then what are you really rooting for? Are you a fan of the logo or the laundry? And that if you're a Redskins fan, what are you a fan of? If you don't like what Dan Snyder has done with the team and the direction of the team, then what are you rooting for? There's a lot of people that maybe want to say that about Mark Davis, that, I can't support the team because I don't support the direction that he's taken him. That's fair. But I think that is it okay to then switch your fandom? And I think the Raiders spin on this to me is that even when you don't agree with what Mark Davis has done, if you feel he hasn't done enough with the city of Oakland as far as negotiating goes and giving people the right opportunities, yada, 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 all the rhetoric and all the spin and all of the things that are out there that you could criticize Mark Davis for. To me, the difference is that our guests earlier on the show, Troy and Kenny, talk about family. And we talk about family a lot on our show, and it truly is. You and I literally are family in our Raider fandom. But it's
unfortunately,
but it goes much deeper than that. You know what I mean? As far as in our fandom, because it is a connection of the family. It's not just the logo. What does that logo represent? What is that? You know what I mean? It's not to over dramatize it here, but I think of it in terms of like, what does the flag of our country represent? It represents liberty. It represents freedom. It represents so many things that are bigger, big concepts, much more so than any one little thing that you want to pin it down to. It represents such a huge, broad spectrum that you can't just pick one thing. And to me, again, much smaller, less relevant or important scale, that's what the Raiders represent. That's what the Raiders shield represents to me, and a lot of, if not, and should be, all the fans. It represents that community. It represents Raider Nation. Like, that's what we all are, and it's that community of fans that is incredibly more passionate about our football team than you are yours, and we have a community with one another. And so, yeah, is it okay for you to switch your fandom? Sure, but I think it is for Raider fans, as far as that goes, it's a lot harder, and it's a lot less frequent than, Joe Sixpack in San Diego saying, hey, I don't want to root for this team anymore because they made me mad. Well, yeah, my team's made me mad before too, a lot, especially over the last 13 years. Trust me, there's been a lot of ill will from Murf to the Raiders, as there has been from Sonny to the Raiders, and I'm sure a lot of fans to the Raiders, but we don't stop rooting for them. You know what I mean? It's part of us, man. It doesn't just go away. It doesn't just quit. So, is it ever okay to switch your fandom? Sure, knock yourself out. But I think that we see a lot less of that when it comes to Raider Nation than we do in these other teams and their fan bases.
Long ago I started thinking about, I forget where it was, but somebody had talked about what you're really a fan of when you're a fan of a sports team. You're a fan of the front office. You're a fan of the owners, and you're a fan of, that kind of stuff, really more than you are the players, because players come and go, but the owners are there long term. So in the article by Ross Tucker, he talks about logo and laundry. Are you simply just a fan of the logo and the laundry? And you make a good point. It's not so much that I'm a Mark Davis fan or an Al Davis fan or Reggie McKenzie fan. I like what they're doing with the team, for sure. I think Al sucked towards the last part of his life, but like you said, it wasn't like I had a choice. What am I gonna do? Not root for them? Not follow them? Like to me, it's just embedded in my DNA as a person that it's almost a something I identify with. Like how would you describe yourself? You're a husband, you're a father, you're a son, right? You're a brother, you're all these things. You're a man of faith. You describe what you do for work. And then you say, you're a Raiders fan. And it's just kind of like how you define yourself to a certain degree. Now it definitely shouldn't be the highest point of how you identify. It definitely should be 7 or 8 on the list for sure, right? But it becomes how you identify yourself. And so I think just to all of a sudden switch that I don't know how that works, To me, I got so many vivid memories of 4 and 5 and 6 years old of being a Raiders fan. I couldn't do long division in 3rd grade, but I could tell you what Kenny Stabler would have done, on 3rd down and 8 or something like that, who his prime target would have been, simply because my dad, he talked all about the Raiders, and I'm hoping to kind of do the same brainwashing to my kids. My little son, Anthony, he has nothing in his room, right? He just turned 2. He has a crib, changing table, rocking chair, and that's it, right? But he has one thing on the wall, Murph. You know what that one thing is?
Stabler lithograph.
No, that's in his brother's room. Actually, in his brother's room is the autographed Stabler painting. My dad got autographed, I think, back in '89 there. No, in Anthony's room, remember those signs we got at the game last November?
Oh, the Stay in Oakland and the radio home of the Oakland Raiders, 95-7 the game.
He has that in his wall, and that's it. That's the only thing he has in his room, So I'm trying to do this strategy here where he has nothing else to focus on but that, right? No, but in all honesty, a week ago, went to the beach, right? Went to the beach, took my kids out there, went to the tide pools and stuff like that. And we had this little Raiders mini football that we brought with us. And so me and Anthony are on the beach playing with it, right? I took some pictures and stuff like that. But he's wearing his Raiders hat, wearing his Raider football, and we're playing beach on the football. And before he even knows it, I'm showing him who the Raiders are and talking to him about them and stuff like that. And so to me, it's not like you can't simply just choose. I mean, I don't know, like your kids, they're a little older than mine, raised around you. Are the Raiders their favorite team, or how does that work in your family?
Yeah, they are, but it's and I'm living in NFL city too, which is a little different. That you don't have. I mean, you got Seattle to the north, and of course the Raiders and the Niners to the south, but you don't have anybody in your backyard. I mean, I could throw a rock and hit Nissan Stadium, and so with the Titans in our backyard, there's a lot of Titan stuff, and we support the Titans. Like, I mean, listen, if they're not playing the Raiders, I support the team, and I'm not shy about that. I live outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Like it's where I live. It's where I earn my money. It's where I pay taxes at. Like, why would I not support that team? Right. So, and they're never in direct conflict with, if I lived in Denver, like I probably couldn't do that. Like that would be icky. Right. But I mean, the Titans and Raiders don't cross paths very often. But if they did, and when they do, then I root for the Raiders, right? When we go this year, I'll support the Raiders. Same thing with my kids, that their friends are Titans fans. So they're kind of Titans fans, but Dad loves the Raiders, and all the things that you just described that you did with your kids, I've done with mine as well. And so they've grown up as Raider fans, and and seeing Dad do the podcast and all this kind of stuff, like and just knowing you and the influence you have over them and everything. Of course, they're Raider fans, but then also my oldest is. This is going to send people through the roof, and you're going to start yelling at your radios and all this kind of stuff, but it's the truth. He loves Tom Brady. My oldest kid is 14 years old, and he looks at Tom Brady.
Anybody have co-hosting abilities out there listening right now? Please send in your resume to show@RaidersFanRadio.com. Thank you.
Listen.
Carry on, Murph.
Hey, and you're going to regret that because I'm going to spin it on you here in a minute. The kid loves Tom Brady. The guy's got all those Super Bowl rings. He's got a supermodel for a wife. Like, if you look at his profile of that guy to a 14-year-old kid, hey, look, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I get it. I get it why he would look up to somebody like Tom Brady. When you talk about the greatest of all time at what he does, and you know what I mean, and the life that he leads and all that. I mean, he's doesn't get in trouble.
Okay. We get your point.
All right. So my point is, Sonny, is that what happened when our beloved Oakland Raiders moved to Los Angeles after our fathers drilled it into our heads for all those many years that as Southern California sports, there's a rivalry between Northern California sports, and we don't like Southern California teams. And what happened when those Raiders moved to L.A.?
It made it weird.
What player turned into our favorite player?
Kenny Stabler.
Yeah, okay. Who else? Hey, don't make me bust out the pictures of us wearing the hats. Who else?
The hats? What are you talking about? Bo Jackson?
No, I'm talking about Dan Marino, Mr. Dolphins fan. I got pictures of you wearing a Dolphins hat.
That was only because you were a fan of Dan Marino and you were older than me, and back then you were cool.
You know why I was a fan of Dan Marino? Because my uncles were fans of Dan Marino because their Raiders that lived in their backyard in Oakland, California, moved to Los Angeles in the same city that the Dodgers and the Lakers were, and they had their fandom get dinged up, and as a result...
But it wasn't like we stopped rooting for the Raiders.
That's the point. All right, then that's where my point is going. Just like with my kid, loves Tom Brady. Doesn't mean he's going to not be a Raider fan. Just like you and I love Dan Marino, we didn't stop being Raider fans. Just like I love Aaron Rodgers now. I'm not going to stop being a Raider fan. I'm not going to root for Aaron Rodgers over the Raiders. But my point, so can you switch your fandom? Yes, but there are parameters there. There are two things that can exist at the same time. You can root for a guy. You can root for a team. I can like the Titans, but I'm not a Titans fan. If I had to define myself as something, no, I'm a freaking Raider fan. But you see what I'm saying? So is Ross Tucker, is it okay to change your fandom? Sure, I think, but there are things about it though. You know what I mean? And I think, and here's the other thing too. This is the other caveat. Why you change your fandom, I think, is also important. To me, is it justified to support the team that lives down the street from me? Yes. And especially when they're not playing my team, the Raiders? Sure. Is it okay for me to all of a sudden become a Seahawks fan because they're doing well? No. That's a whole nother story. And when you start being a bandwagoner and you start supporting a team because they're good, that's a whole nother story. And it drives me nuts when you run into fans that are, Seahawks fans or Patriots fans or whatever, and they don't have any affiliation to, you know what I mean? Like they have no connection back to that squad at all. That's the one that drives me nuts. I'll give you a quick little example. I used to work in sports bars, and we had a lot of different fans come in from different teams. And during the time of the Packers' heyday with Brett Favre, I used to be able to suss these people out by asking them, who's the quarterback before Brett Favre?
Don Majkowski.
There you go. You know that, but you would be surprised that back in the day how many, quote, Packers fans, or the Packers son, which, yeah, and they don't even know that it was Majkowski before Favre. And that's always like, you could always find the ones and be like, you're a poser. But anyways, so I think that all that stuff, it's a great question. And it's, you know what the best thing, and then I'm going to shut up, it's undefinable. You can't define it. All you define fandom by is passion, man. You love your team. That's it. That's it.
Here's where I define it, and it kind of came up as you were talking. It's allegiance, right? Like, I pledge allegiance to the Raiders, but I'm a fan of other players. Like, how can you not be a fan of Aaron Rodgers, who's a great quarterback? How can you not root for, like, people who are good, right? Like,
or what about you, like with Jacquizz Rodgers or Sean Mannion?
That's what I'm saying, right? Like you like other players because you like football. Like, it's not like you like the Raiders and you hate everything else. Like, that's kind of a dumb way to look at life and stuff like that. Like, you like the Raiders because you like football, right? If you didn't really like football, then you wouldn't really like the Raiders that much because they're all about football and stuff like that. And so my allegiance is to the Raiders for sure. It always has been, always will. I think back when I was liking the Dolphins, it was because it was Dan Marino, man. Like, he was cool. He was fun to root for and stuff like that, But it was still when I played Techno Bowl, the Raiders were being number one team I picked. Whenever it was new hat day, I was getting a Raiders hat. Whenever it was new shirt day, I was getting a Raiders shirt and stuff like that. And so it was always Raiders. But you can appreciate other teams and other players as well. So to me, I think the question is not so much can you switch fandom, but it's can you switch allegiances? And that's what really bothered me about that interview we did a couple weeks ago with Joe. No offense to the guy, but he's switching allegiances. He's going from lifelong Chargers fan to now declaring he's going to be a lifelong Raiders fan. That's a whole different take. And I think
you weren't that big of a Chargers fan to begin with.
That's what I think.
I'm sorry, but that's where my mind goes. Because I just got saying about the Titans, but I couldn't do that same thing to the Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Cowboys, Niners.
No.
Like, you think then you were too big of a fan. I'm sorry, and this Joe, we love you, and I hope you come back on the show one day and you can defend yourself. But how big of a fan were you then? You know what I mean? Like, because I hate the Chargers.
To go to a rival. It's like, remember last year when we got PlayStations, we wanted to be all about the show, the MLB The Show, because we loved it, and we were giving up Madden. Both of us were like, I'm an Xbox guy. I can't be a PlayStation guy. And we went and sold them, And so yeah, I don't think there's just nothing you could do to change allegiances other than if the team didn't exist. I mean, what would you do then if the team just all of a sudden ceased to exist? The Houston Oilers. Do you all of a sudden become a Houston Texans fan? Or does nothing will ever cut, nothing would ever like come back to what the Houston Oilers were. It's almost like I would think, hopefully, heaven forbid this ever happened to me, like first wife and then get remarried again, like first wife dies or something like that, and you have to get remarried. It's like nothing could ever replace the first one. I don't know. Maybe that's a horrible analogy. Hopefully my wife doesn't,
probably
my wife doesn't listen to the show.
You'll probably want that one back, but I'm with you though. But and I think that in those situations where, if you're a Baltimore Colts fan and your team packs up and moves halfway across the country and you're left sitting there going like, well, what happened? Like, what do I do now? Like, that's one thing. Like, I get shifting colors there, until eventually your Ravens come back, or you mentioned the Oilers, eventually the Texans, come into existence or whatever. That's even a whole nother story. But I think very, very well put. Allegiance. That's a whole different thing even than fandom. Is that, and maybe we'll start calling this Raiders Allegiant Radio, but you're absolutely right that it's allegiance is what are you pledged to as your fandom. It's the Raiders for us. It will always be the Raiders. And frankly, it just doesn't matter what the team and the front office does because we will be Raiders fans. And here's the funky part. It's not because it has anything to do with them. It has everything to do with the community and all of the fans and all of the people and that we've got to know and then we have a shared experience with, whether that be family, whether by blood or just by sharing fandom of the team. But I think that's what defines it. That's truly what it is for us.
Hey, just one time, I need it.
Raiders Fan Radio.
Jerry Rice came out.
Congratulations to him.
And I wasn't done, Murph. Why you got to insinuate? Why are you insinuating something?
Oh, okay. I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Jerry Rice came out and said that he loves the Raiders and he's rooting for the Raiders this year. Murph.
Oh, well, good for him.
I'm gonna ask you one question. Do you consider Jerry Rice to be a Raiders? A Raider?
No.
Me neither. So I don't care what he says. Moving on.
Jim Rome, star of the Jim Rome Show. Let's go to Nashville.
Let's go to Oregon.
Josh in Nashville.
Sonny in Oregon.
You made it in, Josh. How are you?
Jim, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Good, Jim.
Rock him, Sonny.
Okay, Murph, did you actually get into the Jim Rome Show? Because I got in.
Yeah, I got in.
Did you get in?
Yeah, I got in.
Okay, good. So we both got in then.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Huh. You know what I got in for?
What?
Here come the tweets. I brought up Vince Young. I talked about Vince Young when he was with the Titans.
Interesting.
And I got in because he did a whole segment on Nashville and what Vince Young meant to Nashville and being close to it and being a huge fan of the show. I called in and told him.
Maybe we should change our tagline to Raiders Fan Radio, the only podcast where both hosts have gotten on the Jim Rome Show.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. How cool is that, man?
That's street cred right there. We're not going to spend too much time.
That's almost being as good as best friends with Adam Rank.
Yes. Adam Rank, our new best friends.
Or our new best friend, even more recently than Adam Rank, would be Greg Auman.
Whoa. Jumping the gun here. Khalil Mack signs a big endorsement deal for Mack trucks. I'm not sure what any more to talk about than this. Terms of the deal weren't disclosed. The idea was started with Draymond Green, I guess, and Mack had thought of it before. And then did Mack reach out to him? I don't even know. But it just makes sense, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. Mack truck. Mack is such a beast on the field. It just sounds like a marriage made in heaven. And for you, which we won't talk about on the show, it has maybe some more cool stuff that could happen, huh?
Yes, it does. I am in the same industry as the Mack truck folks, and I will be looking forward to some reciprocity there and looking forward to maybe at an industry event where Mr. Khalil Mack would maybe make an appearance. You never know, right? I think it would be pretty cool. Of course, that's just the Raider fan in me wishful thinking, but you never know. So, yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And because it's summertime, nothing more to say about that.
Hey, boys and girls, this is Uncle Mosh. That's right. Somebody actually claims Sonny and Murf. These two. Check them out on their website, RaidersFanRadio.com. You can friend them on Facebook at Raiders Fan Radio, or you can like their fan page at Raiders Fan Radio Podcast. Hey, I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use a Twitter, but they do. You can tweet them at Raiders Fan Radio. Call them. Leave a voicemail if you want. Go old school. 909-345-3346. That's 909-345-3346. Hey, do this. Please subscribe and rate Raiders Fan Radio on iTunes. You can listen to the show on all podcast services like Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Okay, am I done? Did I say all the stuff I was supposed to say? All right, I'm out of here.
43 NFL writers, some national, some local, some newspaper, and some online, were asked for 3 teams and 3 individual players in the NFL who are the most badass, right? This was an article written by your buddy that you're so eager to talk about. You jumped the gun a segment ago.
Sorry.
Greg Auman. And basically it was a panel to see who the most badass team was. and most badass players are. Murph, how is it Raiders related?
It is Raiders related in the fact that, first off, plug your ears if you got wee ones in the car because we're going to say badass about 900 times in this segment. So, first off, he was very, very kind in his response and his very well thought out response after I tweeted him and told him this was a badass article. No, right? I thought that was kind of clever. And so did he, because he wrote back, "Thank you." So
you gotta ditch Adam Rank at the Catalina wine mixer and hang out with Greg Auman.
I might.
Both.
Greg Auman's my side piece.
Yeah. Oh crap! They can't be in the same room together.
I know. So, all right. So, pretty cool results here. So, number one, no surprise, the New England Patriots. Number two, and I think that's all performance and rings related, right? Like, you don't have to be a tough guy to be badass when you are constantly winning and consistently winning. That's pretty badass. So the Patriots are number one. Seahawks are number two. Legion of Boom, no surprise there. Steelers, known for their hard-hitting defense and guys like James Harrison, no surprise at number three. And then your Oakland Raiders come in at number four. And I thought that was a relatively fair place to put them because they're turning into badasses. They're not all the way there yet, but Crabtree, you might not, when Debo snatches your chain, you may want to do something about it. Then maybe we'll climb up the badass list. But until then, the Raiders are at number four. So I thought that was a fair place for them to be. And then we look at players. James Harrison, number one, to me, slam dunk, run away. And there is, when the dude's almost 40 years old and pushing 1,800 pounds on a sled, that's badass. Like, he's just a freaking monster in the weight room. He's the kind of a guy that you would not want to go up against at any point. I mean, he's a flat badass.
Hate him, but respect him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Number two, Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch. And I think that is a very fair place to be because to me, Marshawn is the offensive version of what Harrison is. You know what I mean? He doesn't quite have the legendary workout videos that Harrison does, but he's got some pretty good ones. And when you just look at the tenacity that he plays the game with and his passion, and it really comes out, and it's just that brute force and that badassness and when he runs the football. And so no surprise there that he's at number two. And then number 8 on the list and tied with number 8. And this is where I get a little bit crossed up, is that we have Khalil Mack there, and ahead of him are guys like J.J. Watt, Cam Chancellor, Ndamukong Suh, Tom Brady, not a badass, but when you got 5 rings, you are. Von Miller, okay. Aaron Donald below Mack at 10, but he's tied with Rob Gronkowski. And I'm like, all right, Gronk is kind of a badass, but you can't be a badass if you're a goof. You know what I mean? Gronkowski is he's a great player and all that, but like he's a goof. Like Harrison, you don't see like being a goof. You know what I mean? And even Marshawn can be silly and lighthearted, but he's not like they're not caricatures of themselves. And like Gronk is a caricature of himself. And I didn't think that was fair to Mack. I think Mack is by far much more badass than what Rob Gronkowski is.
I don't know. I mean, Raider goggles aside, who's the better tight end than Gronkowski in the league?
Jared Cook? No, I mean, I don't know.
There isn't.
I mean,
there isn't, dude. I mean, Rob Gronkowski is kind of changing the game at tight end. I mean, I'd say he's a badass. He's goofy. Is The Rock not a badass?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that's a fair point, but he's just kind of, I don't know, like but The Rock's never like a caricature of himself.
Yes,
and
he is. Did you watch the last movie? Did you watch Collateral Damage, whatever, with him and Kevin Hart?
No. The Central Intelligence?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, when he did Fat Rob and all that stuff. Yeah, he was pretty goofy.
I mean, wrestling, he's always made fun of himself, so I don't think just because he's a goof, you can't label him not a badass. Like James Harrison, you're not going to say one word to that guy. Gronkowski, you say a word, he'd say something back to you or something like that, but you're not going to mess with that guy. Now, I think Khalil Mack should be higher on the list. I don't see how Brady's more of a badass than Khalil Mack. I mean, I guess because he wins. And I guess that's the question I have is this based solely on winning? Because why is J.J. Watt up there? J.J. Watt's not up there. But then Tom Brady's on there, but he's not a badass. He's a freaking vegan.
Well, I think that that's loosely defined as far as, there are different things that can make you you can be a badass for a lot of different reasons, right? It's not just one thing that makes you a badass. And when you look at since there was 43 riders that made up this thing, you had 43 different amazingly diverse opinions. Yeah. Like everybody was a homer for their own team. You know what I mean? There was people voting, the Titans, or voting the Falcons, or voting, whoever is the most badass teams. You know what I mean? There was Paul Kuharski. He voted the Packers as one of his most, and okay, well, there are some badass players, but I don't know if they're thought of as a badass team. You know what I mean? So I think there's different criteria. And I think it's just kind of a fun little thing, but Mack should be way ahead of people like Gronkowski, and and is Gronkowski the best tight end in the league? I think Greg Olsen wants a piece of that.
Nah.
I don't know, man. There are some others as well, but I don't know. It's you make a fair point. You make a fair point. And that's why these kinds of lists are fun, right? Is that there's not a right answer. There's just only opinions.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll be happy when summer's over and we can start talking about football again.
Amen to that.
Moving on.
Hey, Raiders fans, check this out. Raiders Fan Radio has got an app. I don't know what that means, but you do, because you're listening to this on a computer or something like that. Anyway, go to the Apple Store. Apple Store?
Apple Play Store?
Apple, nah.
No, Google Play.
Apple
has an App Store. Google
App Store. You can get it at the Apple Store or the App Store or whatever that is. You can, if you got an Android, isn't that like a robot? You can go to Google Play Store. They got show links, they got downloads, they got all kinds of really cool stuff. Hey, if you can't figure it out, give it to a teenager. They know how to work these phones better than you do.
Thanks, Uncle Tron, for that recent article there. I really appreciate that, Uncle Tron. Anyway, still have a great voice though. All right, this one's called Murf's Internet Black Hole. So take it away there, Black Hole Murf.
There's a little rumor in town that someone's got a birthday. Happy birthday to you, Sonny. You have a birthday coming up, and before we'll do the, I don't know, whenever the next show we're going to do is, but just to tell you that happy birthday out there. Are you you want to reveal your age here on the show?
I'll be 38.
38 years old. So happy birthday to you. So I just wanted to tell you that publicly, and also I reached out to some friends of the show, and they wanted to tell you happy birthday as well.
Oh, okay.
Together. Happy birthday to you. Come on. Happy birthday to you. Have a great day.
Surprise!
Oh, this is Rihanna.
Happy birthday. Go. It's your birthday. We gon' party because it's your birthday. Got us a present just for your birthday.
I know you're a big Rihanna fan. My buddy Jack Black called in.
Oh, appreciate Jack. Haven't seen him since the last Catalina Wine Mixer.
Happy birthday, dear you. Happy birthday to you. Yeah.
So we'd just like to thank Rihanna, Adam Sandler, and Jack Black for calling in and wishing Sonny a happy 38th birthday.
Appreciate that. I haven't seen Adam Sandler since we got drunk a couple years ago at the Catalina Wine Mixer. And, in fact, Rihanna came and cleaned us up and stuff, so I was really appreciative. Yeah, it was good.
Well, good. I'm glad you guys had a good time, and hopefully this year when you do have your party, you can remember it. All right, so you were 38 years old, and you were born in what year?
1979, math genius.
Which brings us to
Murf's Black Hole of the Internet.
That begins
where
everything ends.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Other grown men are out chopping wood and feeding their families. And you're over.
Okay, so I wanted to know specifically what happened in 1979 in relation to the Oakland Raiders.
From 1930 through 1944, the Chicago Bears set a National Football League record of 15 winning seasons in a row. 35 years later, on December 9, 1979, the Oakland Raiders defeated the Cleveland Browns and became the only other team in NFL history to battle their way to 15 consecutive winning seasons. The Raiders, pro football's winningest team, had again added to their total dominance of professional football in terms of consistent victory. Fueled by an unyielding commitment to excellence, the Oakland Raiders had made the 60s and 70s their decades of destiny.
That's right. The Oakland Raiders made the 60s and 70s the decades of destiny. And so I have here in my hand, Sonny, a few facts about the Raiders and their consecutive winning season streak. Okay, so the Raiders from 65 to 1980, because they did it, they tied the Bears in 79, what we just in the year of your birth, but they went up to in 1980 another winning season, so they had 16 in a row. So to give you an idea of where the Raiders fit in the history of winning consecutive winning seasons in the NFL, the New York Giants and the Boston/Washington Redskins each had 10 straight seasons of winning football. The Green Bay Packers had 13 straight seasons of winning football. The Cleveland Browns had 13, and then now here we're getting into the good ones. The Green Bay Packers from 34 to 47 had 14 straight seasons of winning football. The Chicago Bears from 30 I think this is 1920 to 34. They had 15 straight seasons of winning football. The San Francisco 49ers from 1983 to 1998 had 16 seasons of winning football. Then our Oakland Raiders come in at 16. Then the New England Patriots, 2001 to present, 16 straight years of winning football. But the top of the list is the Dallas Cowboys. From 1966 to 1985, had 20 seasons of winning football. So why is this important? Because the Niners, although they went 16 straight, they also had 18 of 20 winning of seasons of winning football. The Patriots are currently 19 seasons of winning football in 21 seasons, and your Oakland Raiders, 20 winning seasons in 21 years, which is the tightest group of winning seasons ever. And in fact, if it wasn't for that 7-9 season, they would have had 21 straight years of winning football and eclipsing the Cowboys' current record. But the good news is that we got two now seasons of winning football under our belt, and only 18 more to go. And Derek Carr's a young man. So that's what we're going to look forward to. But outside of that, hey, but you know what, though? Tom Brady's got 16 so far. You think he can make a run?
Okay,
I don't know.
You cannot talk about Tom Brady no more on the show, dude.
I'm not talking.
You bring him up like 5 times a show.
The guy's gifted.
But people are going to stop
Not as gifted
listening.
as Derek Carr.
Thank you.
Derek Carr's the one that's going to get it.
Thank you.
Derek Carr's the one that's going to get it. Hey, how cool is that, though, huh? The Raiders, 20 winning seasons in 21 years.
That's good.
I mean, talk
That's
about
money.
Dominance, dude.
That's money. That's money.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you, sir. All right, diving into the Sea of Fans mailbag. Sea of Fans mailbag, brought to you by Sonny and Murf, because we sponsor ourselves. We got reached out to this last week by Raider Jeff. Murf, do you know who Raider Jeff is?
I do not. Enlighten us all.
Raider Jeff is the owner-operator of DeadPirateSports.com. DeadPirateSports.com. Check them out. Custom Raiders, anything you want, essentially. Two-piece stainless steel Raiders barbecue set, Raider plastic forks, Raider table color, Raider coasters, Raider six-pack cooler, Raider three-piece tailgater set, Raider tumblers, Raider keychain, bottle opener. This guy produces everything Raiders, right? So he reached out to us. He wants to come on the show and do a giveaway to our listeners. So we're working on, he also does flags and banners and all that kind of stuff. We're working on getting him on the show to, he's going to come on the show do an interview. We'll talk more about what he does, his business and stuff like that. And they're going to do a couple giveaways with some of his products. We'll do some. I'm sure Murf will be spearheading this. Some trivia, if you will, about the Raiders. And the people who get it right will win some free swag from deadpiratesports.com. So if you're looking for anything Raiders, this should be your first stop. I mean, aroma lights, ashtrays, auto emblems, auto stickers, you name it. It seems like they make it. He's getting ready, I think, to build the Las Vegas bar, or he's going to partner with Good Times Billiards in Las Vegas. So Dead Pirate Sports is on the rise, Murph. Pretty cool. Customized. I believe they can customize a lot of the stuff. I have a couple flags in front of me right now that I got from Dead Pirate Sports. So really cool guy, cool organization. And, man, he reached out to us. That's freaking awesome. So we're trying to get him on hopefully next week. On Twitter, he goes by @RaiderFan33. And then on Facebook, it's deadpiratesports.com. I'm sorry, on Facebook, it's Dead Pirate Sports. But the website is deadpiratesports.com. Anyway, we'll be efforting to get him on shortly on the show, so stay tuned to that. All right, Murph, anything else before we get to going?
That's it, man. Not to end the show on a down note, but R.I.P. to Sam McKenzie Jr., Raleigh and Reggie's father. That was sad news this week in Raider Nation. We lost a guy that with definitely direct ties to the team.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers with Reggie and family this week, and also entire Raider Nation. And it's like one of our own, right? It's like losing one of your own. So
absolutely. Hey, we talk family, we mean it.
Throw up a prayer to Reggie. That's your thing. And yeah, Murph. Appreciate once again Troy Limerick from the Northern Virginia Raiders Booster Club, as well as Kenny Mann from Hampton Roads Raiders Club out there in Virginia. Appreciate what you guys do on the West Coast out there. And as always, it's Raider Nation, wherever, forever.